Hello and welcome back to another episode of Square State Sandlot. I am your host, Bill Montoya. Typically, I'd have Kyle here with me, but he is back to work and working on night shifts, so it'll be me on a solo pod. Hoping to have some of you guys jump on into the comment section. I did put the link up on all of our pages, so if any of you would like to come on and discuss your favorite team, that would be exciting to have someone to talk to at least. As we continue to do these, where Kyle is back to work a little more often, I would like to have some regular guests in there that would like to come on, and then we do have a couple guests that we are still looking to get on. We just haven't been able to get the schedule figured out with them just yet. So, with all that being said, I'll jump right into it and just gonna kind of catch up because we haven't had an episode since right before I left on vacation. And we went to San Diego as a family. Had a lot of fun while we were there, but I fell behind on a lot of the sports stuff. So just getting caught up on some of that. I did want to mention the Wyoming Cowboys. They defeated the Utah State Aggies 28-14. Defense looked probably the best they've looked all year, except against maybe Northern Colorado. They had 6 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, and I think they gave up less than 200 yards total. And then the offense put up over 500 yards, most of that on the ground. But Titus Swen, DQ James, they both went off for over 100 yards, got some touchdowns in there. Andrew Peasley played really well. Wyatt Wieland, he had, I think, 6 catches for 94 yards. So that was all of that was impressive. And leading up to a game against Hawaii that I think they should win handily. They are favored by, I want to say it was 11.5 points last I checked. So Wyoming should win that. And I did want to shout out Eric Pauly, our guy, the sideline reporter that we had on. He posted on his Instagram page that he went from Elk Mountain, Wyoming, and snow to now he's got his feet kicked up on the beach there at Waikiki in Hawaii. So shout out to Eric Pauly. We hope you're enjoying that warmth, as I'm sure you're enjoying the escape from the snow that you left behind in Wyoming. With that being said, I won't break that game down too much because, like I said, Wyoming's an almost 12-point favorite, and I think they should continue their offensive run that they've had going here. And then just one of the comments that we had in the scheduled live stream was my dad. He had mentioned that the Utes won 21-17 with most of their backups in last night. The Utah Utes, they beat Washington State on the road. So pretty impressive win for them to win with essentially multiple backups in on the offensive side, and defense played really well and kept them in that game. So that was the only game that I saw that was on last night for college football. And that's all I'll talk about with college football. A couple of things that are happening around the NFL. And I'll talk more about surprising teams and why they're surprising to me for this season now that we're at the probably 1/3 portion of the season for most teams. Some are even past that with 7 games played. So, but the top news that I saw was Robert Quinn was traded from the Chicago Bears to the Eagles. Last year he had 19 sacks on a good Chicago Bears team, good Chicago Bears defense. Team was not good, so I think that kind of got lost in the shuffle. But the Eagles were able to acquire him for a fourth-round pick, and then the Bears are picking up essentially the rest of his salary this season. So I feel like that was a pretty good steal for the Eagles, especially if he can be anywhere near as productive as he was for the Bears last year. So he's gotten off to a little bit slow of a start, but I think he's been double teamed because he's really the only threat on that Bears defensive line right now. So I think that's going to help him getting added to that Eagles defense that's really played very well. So I love that trade for the Eagles and the Bears. I mean, they're not going to do much this year anyway. So picking up assets on an expiring contract, I guess it works for them too. So now, with that being said, I'm going to go into my surprising teams in the NFL this season, and this is either surprising in a good way, surprising in a bad way, and then I'll break down why. So through week 7, which obviously we had the Thursday night game last night, so I'll talk about that one a little bit later. But this is going through week 7. The New York Jets. They've been very surprising. In fact, they're right up at the top of the division with the Bills, the Dolphins, playing very well. And quite honestly, when I saw Joe Flacco was going to start the season because of the Zach Wilson injury, I thought they would lose, 3 or 4 of those games. But Zach Wilson came back pretty quick, and he's won all 4 of his starts so far this season, or since he's come back from injury, I should say. They did lose Breece Hall in their last game, but they did make a trade for James Robinson from Jacksonville. So I think that'll soften the blow. They do have the talent. They have a lot of talent. I don't think they're quite a complete team just yet. So I'd be surprised if they end up towards the top of the league at the end of the season. But they have been a surprise, definitely in the first third of the season thus far. So on the other side of that, you've got the Broncos that have been a major disappointment they've been a big surprise, but in the other way, they've been a major disappointment. Russell Wilson has obviously not played well. Defense hasn't been as good as I think a lot of people thought they were going to be, although they are averaging, I think, only 18 to 20 points, something like that, per game given up, but they're only scoring 14 on offense. So that's obviously not what the Broncos thought they were getting when they signed Russell Wilson to that extension. And quite honestly, Brett Ripien didn't look that bad. He didn't look great, but he didn't look any worse than Russell Wilson for about $244 million less dollars going to him. So I don't know. I know Russell's been playing through a couple injuries. He had that shoulder injury that he got a cortisone injection for. And then he had the hamstring injury that forced him to miss that last game. They're playing in London on Sunday, so they had that big flight, and apparently he was doing his stretches and everything while everyone else was sleeping. So props to Russell. We'll see if it helps how he plays. This next team, I guess I've been surprised by them. I don't know if Kyle has, and I wish he was here to discuss it, but the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought they were going to be a lot better off this season. They've quite honestly, their offense has been awful. Defense has been what we've expected, even without T.J. Watt. They've kept him in games. So I thought this team would be, I didn't think they were going to be in the playoff discussion, but I thought they would have. I think I picked them to win 8 or 9 games. I can't remember. So I thought they'd be right around 500, and so far this season they've been well below that. And this is looking to be probably Tomlin's first losing record as a head coach. So they've surprised me for sure. I don't know. Like I said, Kyle may have not been surprised. He may have seen it coming with starting the season with Mitch Trubisky, and but really, I don't think he saw it coming either. Other than the offensive line, they have weapons on offense. They have a great defense, so it's been surprising to see how bad they've played. So I know Kyle's looking forward to the Kenny Pickett train, but as of right now, it's not a winning formula. Even though they have Pickens and Najee Harris, hopefully he'll start to break out a little bit more. But as of right now, 2 wins, not a great start to the season. So the Colts, Indianapolis Colts, have been another disappointing team. I know I picked them to win, I think, 13 games. I picked them to have the second best record in the AFC, and they're currently sitting at 3-3, and they've just looked inept on offense. Defense has been good, but not great. They've been good enough to keep them in games, and they just broke the news that Matt Ryan has been benched for the rest of the season. They're going to start rookie Sam Ehlinger. He's never made a NFL pass before, so we'll see what they do. I know they've been super disappointed with the offense, but I don't think it's as surprising as it should have been, or I guess it's been a lot more surprising than it probably should have been, because they don't really have that many offensive weapons outside of Taylor at running back, and everyone thought you're just going to plug in Matt Ryan and he's going to do well, and that's for sure what I thought. And then I thought the defense would prop him up and keep him in games enough to get Matt Ryan ahead. But it just hasn't worked so far. I mean, 3-3 is not the worst record, but when everyone was projecting you to be, first or second seed in the AFC, it's quite the fall. Especially, you'd have to think the rookie's probably not going to play as well as a veteran Matt Ryan would, but I guess we'll see. And then on the NFC side, I've been very surprised by the Giants. They are currently sitting at 6-1. They've knocked off some good teams. They've knocked off the Ravens. I can't remember who all they've played, but Brian Daboll, I mean, he looks to be a hell of a hire, and he's maximizing and getting everything out of this team. All the weapons, he's getting everything out of them. He's scheming his offense to fit what they have on the roster rather than trying to stick a circle in a square hole. It's been very impressive what he's been able to do with that offense, especially, everyone's been saying Daniel Jones is not the answer at quarterback, and I mean, who's to say he is or isn't, but up to this point, I mean, they didn't pick up his fifth-year option for a reason, and Brian Daboll has just been winning with him. So he looks to be like the front runner for NFC Coach of the Year, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if he wins it the way he's got them playing. Cowboys has been another team that I've been very surprised by, and they're not winning pretty, but win's a win, especially with the absence of Dak Prescott. I thought for sure that they were going to lose some games, and Cooper Rush came in and he kept them in every game, did his job, and I think they won every game that he started except one. So they're sitting at 5-2, and that defense is looking pretty legit, especially with Micah Parsons. He's in on almost every play. So I've been very impressed with the Cowboys thus far. I still don't think they're not going to top the Eagles in my opinion, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them as a wild card team there. So the Seahawks, wow. I think I picked the Seahawks to win 2 games this season. I think most people had them as the worst or bottom 3 teams in the entire league, and I believe they're sitting at 4-3 at the top of the NFC West Conference. I don't know who saw this. I don't even think Seahawks fans saw this. So as of right now, I think it's clear to say that the Seahawks have won the Russell Wilson trade. Geno Smith has been playing really well, and then they've drafted a ton of contributors. They've got Kenneth Walker, they got Kobe Bryant. They have a lot of key contributors that are rookies on both sides of the football. So plus you have DK, although I think he just went on the IR. Lockett. So they've got a lot of good weapons. If that defense can keep them in games, I think they're going to win quite a bit. So. And who knows? I mean, they may finish this season at the top of the NFC West the way that the Rams and the 49ers are playing. So very surprising in their performances. And speaking of the Rams, I mean, I don't think many people saw them struggling coming off a Super Bowl win like they have so far. I think OBJ definitely helped that offense look a lot better last year. He came in and made an instant impact on that team after looking pretty abysmal on the Browns for the entire time he was there. So I think once he's healthy again and recovered fully, he should, if they can get him on the team, they need him. Stafford hasn't looked great. They're about to cut ties with Cam Akers. I don't know what's going on with that situation, but he doesn't like how he's being used on offense. And they essentially said he's available Still no deal has been done, but we'll probably see that happen after this Sunday because the trade deadline is Tuesday of next week. So I think we'll see some movement in that. And quite honestly, I don't know where he'll end up. I've heard the 49ers are probably going to deal a running back as well after they traded for Christian McCaffrey. So I think there'll be a decent amount of movement at that position. So there should be teams probably aren't going to get what they want to get for running backs if there's multiple of them available. But we'll see what happens with the Rams. I still think they're right in the thick of things because their division has been pretty down. But we'll see. I mean, Arizona hasn't looked great. Seattle's looked better than I think most people thought they would. And then, like I said, San Francisco's been so up and down, it's tough to say what they are. They look like a great defense, but Jimmy G's still not the answer at quarterback. And they have a ton of offensive weapons, especially after adding Christian McCaffrey. So, who knows? On to the Vikings. They've been very impressive. I mean, I think Kyle picked them to win the division, or at least be towards the top of that division. I'm not sure. I know I didn't pick them to win very many games, and they're already sitting at 5-2, I believe. So they lead their conference right now over the Packers, and the Packers have been down. So I think this might be the year that, with a 2-game lead over the Packers right now, maybe they can hold on the rest of the season. But it's quite clear that, Detroit isn't as good as we thought they were going to be. They're losing those games that people thought they would start winning this season. Chicago isn't great. Their offense is, I mean, Justin Fields is pretty much one of the only maybe one or two weapons they have on that entire offense. So putting that much pressure on your defense isn't a winning formula. And then, it looks very clear that the Packers are missing Davante Adams. You had Aaron Rodgers essentially calling out everyone on the offense, saying 20% of our plays we probably have, or he said on every one of our plays we have probably 20% of the people that don't know what they're doing, which is not ideal. I think it's a subtle shot at Matt LaFleur, saying, we need to simplify this offense. That's what he's been saying all season because they have a bunch of rookies at key positions. So I don't know. I mean, Packers, this might be the beginning of the end for them. I wish John was able to step on it and give me his thoughts on it, but it definitely seems that Aaron Rodgers is not clicking with his new receiving core. New receiving core is not where they're supposed to be on the field. Badiari, he's been banged up. I think he's supposed to start this week, but missed last week. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of problems with the Packers, and quite honestly, if Aaron Rodgers were to call it a career after this season, I think they'd be in some pretty big world of hurt because he's a lot of the reason why free agents go to Green Bay. It's because they want to play with a quarterback that's essentially going to give you a chance to win in every single game. So. And then lastly, the surprise has been the entire NFC South. Mostly the Bucs. I mean, they were supposed to walk away with this division, and Brady has been playing awful. They just hit 3-5 after their Thursday night loss to the Ravens. And obviously he's got his personal struggles going right now off the field with his divorce just getting finalized today. So I'm sure that's probably part of the reason why he's struggling. But I think mostly it's that I think they've lost their starting backup centers. So they're playing on a third string center, and then they've lost a starting guard. So they're on a backup right guard, I believe. So a lot of reasons why, and that's the way to beat Brady and Rodgers, is getting pressure right up the middle. And Brady struggled with that his entire career. That's why they ended up losing those 2 Super Bowls to the Giants, is because they could generate that interior pressure and be right up in his face and hitting him before he even had a chance to read the defense. So I think that's probably a lot of their issues. So barring a trade, I don't really see that getting fixed because they need guards, and there's not plenty of guards readily available that are going to make your team better. Same thing with centers. Every team has a starting center that they want to hold on to. You may get a team that's, has a good offensive lineman that's out of the out of the playoff picture that might be willing to make a trade for an offensive lineman, but I think that's the only way you're going to fix that Tampa Bay team. Their defense has been good, but when they get stuck out on the field the entire game, it's tough to ask your defense to play for 45 minutes of a 60-minute game out on the field. So we'll see, but I really don't think – I think they're still in a position that they're going to win that division just because every other team in the division is not great. In fact, Carolina already fired Matt Rule. They traded Christian McCaffrey. They're rumored to be trading even more pieces. So Carolina's probably going to end up last in that division. New Orleans, they're playing. I think they're 2-5 right now. They're getting ready to play my Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to win that game. So, you'll have New Orleans and Carolina both with, I think they both have 2 wins. And then Atlanta has been surprising in a good way. But with Cordero Patterson on the IR, I don't know if they have quite the offense just yet, but Arthur Smith is doing a really good job down there. I've always liked him. Mariota's been playing pretty well. I didn't think he would be able to stay healthy because every time he touched the field while he was a backup on the Raiders, he would get hurt and have to miss multiple weeks. So far, he's played well and he's been healthy, but I don't know if you can count on him to do that the entire season. So I think the winner of this division might only have to win 8 or 9 games to get their division stamp in there. So that's where I think Brady, now that he's a divorced man and doesn't have to worry about trying to save his marriage, I think he's going to be 100% committed to football. And I think he'll probably be on a tear for the last half of the season. Like I said, they got to fix that offensive line, though, if they want any chance to contend in the playoffs. So I think this will probably be Brady's last year, and then you'll see him up in the booth making $35 million a year to talk into a mic. So maybe one day that could be my lot in life, but it's going to be his real soon. So, all right, I will move on to my Raiders. Not a ton to talk about. I just wanted to talk about the Texans game. They ended up winning 38-20, and honestly, that game was a lot closer than I thought it would be up until the fourth quarter. Midway through the fourth quarter, that's when they started to pull away. Duron Harmon has been an absolute stud of a pickup for the Raiders. He had a pick six in the fourth quarter that ended up making that game a 14-point game at the time, I think, or 10-point game. I can't remember, something like that. 11-point game, I think it was. So that was a good pickup for them. He's been starting at safety because Trevon Merrick has been struggling. Jonathan Abram, you never want him in coverage. So Duron Harmon has basically been playing safety at one spot or the other the entire season, and he's been doing very well. In the Falcons game, he had a breakup of a pass that should have saved the game for the Raiders, but instead they fumbled that game away. So he's made quite a few plays that, it lets you know that he's a key contributor on that defense. But I mean, with that being said, the defense has been awful. I think they need to make some moves before the trade deadline. I think they could still use one more cornerback. I still think they could use either a free agent or a trade for a defensive tackle. Although they did just trade away Jonathan Hankins. Big Hank was with the Raiders, I think, his entire career. They brought him back on a one-year deal, and then they just traded him and a seventh-round pick to Dallas for a sixth-round pick. So essentially a late-round pick swap and a salary shed. But this is to get Butler and Farrell Jr. that they drafted in the 4th and 5th round. It's to get them some more playing time. So Hankins wasn't playing much. In fact, he was a healthy scratch against the Chiefs. So, I mean, just being able to get something back for him and dump that salary, I guess, is a win for the Raiders. And now they can see what they have with those 2 rookie tackles. And then I still would love to see Ndamukong Suh in a Raiders jersey. I think him in the middle of that defense would just be an absolute shot in the arm for Max Crosby and Chandler Jones, who Chandler Jones has been playing. I'm going to give him props. He's been playing very well the last 2.5 games that he's played in. So Hopefully that's good news. He continues to make an impact in the game. Granted, the Texans aren't the measuring stick that you want to measure up against, but a win's a win. Had a good impact in there. And then, like I said, they're playing the Saints on Sunday. I think they should handle the Saints. Saints have really struggled this year, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which is surprising because that's been their strength for probably the last 5-6 seasons. Cam Jordan, they have Marshawn Lattimore. They've just had a lot of weapons on that defense, but this season they have not been good against the run, which is, I mean, they had like 3 seasons in a row where they hadn't given up a 100-yard rusher, and I think they've already done it 3 times this season. So that's going to be good for Jacobs. I believe he's going to have a big game, and then you have the 3-headed monster in Waller, Adams, and Renfro that should all suit up in this game. There was an illness going through the Raiders locker room, and Adams missed Wednesday and Thursday, but he ended up playing or practicing in a limited capacity today. Waller was limited as well, but he's trending towards playing. And then Renfro, we saw he played in the last game. I think he had 47 yards on 2 catches. Big clutch catches to extend drives. So I think as he continues to come back from that concussion, and then you actually get Jacobs in there running the ball the way that he is, Waller in there, you get Adams in there making impact plays as well. I think this offense is going to get going against the lesser competition, so to speak. They go to Jacksonville next, so not that the Jags are bad, they're not a competitive team just yet. So I think the Raiders should really get the ball rolling here, especially on the offensive side of the football, and hopefully after these next 2 games, they'll be back at 500, sitting at 4-4, and readying themselves for the stretch run. So I think that's all I have with the Raiders. This was the spot in the episode where Kyle was supposed to discuss his Steelers, but I'll talk briefly about them. They played against the Dolphins. They lost 16-10. Dolphins didn't look great. They had Tua Tagovailoa back at quarterback, and Steelers defense was really able to stifle them. I mean, most of the game, it's just been the whole story of defense plays well, offense plays pretty bad, and that's been the story thus far. Although there was a bright spot, and that is Najee Harris looked a lot better in this last game. So if he can continue to get better, and then you have Pickens on the outside, you've got Freiermuth in the middle, and then, they have other weapons on offense as well, obviously, but Deontay Johnson, I feel like Pickens has just got to be able to spread the ball around a little bit. That offensive line needs to hold up a little bit better for him. He's got to make decisions a little bit quicker. But he is providing a spark, and he does have legs. I mean, he's been making plays with his feet. So if he can start to extend those plays, make the reads a little bit quicker, get the ball out into the hands of the playmakers, I think it's going to help. But Matt Canada, I mean, I really have a feeling that he's the whole link in this on why the team is not playing up to its potential. So maybe we'll see a move when they're on their bye week or something like that. But typically you don't make coordinator moves in the middle of a season. So, really it might be next season before you see a new offensive system where Pickett can be comfortable and start making plays. So with that being said, just wanted to mention real quick that injuries continue to pile up for the Chargers. So while they're sitting at, I think, 4-3, they did lose J.C. Jackson for the year. He had a patellar tear injury that he already had surgery on. They said he'll be out for 9 to 10 months. So he should be healthy probably towards the beginning of next season. Might start on the PUP list at the beginning of the season and miss the first couple games. That's just a brutal injury, and he wasn't playing very well for the Chargers up to that point either. So they gave him a huge contract and really didn't get anything out of him this year. And you have to wonder if, I don't think that the Patriots foresaw the injury, obviously, but I think they foresaw that he wouldn't be quite the player away from Foxborough. I think he excels at mostly just man-to-man, and anytime he gets put in zone. I can't remember if he's a man, cornerback, or zone, one of the two. But when he gets flipped to the other type of coverage, he just seems to struggle. And I think anytime the Patriots are willing to let someone walk, I would be very weary in signing them to a long-term extension. So, and then Mike Williams also was put on the IR, so he'll be out at least 4 weeks from last week. So, I mean, every year the Chargers are the media's darling, and everyone says they're going to win, 16 games or something, and finally knock off the Chiefs, something like that. But every year they have injuries, and I don't know why it is. I don't know if it's their training staff. I don't know why, but every year they have just a rash of injuries that they can't recover from. I don't know if they just draft people that are injury prone. I really don't know what the explanation is, but until I see the Chargers actually put it out there for an entire season, I will never pick them to knock off the Chiefs, or if I'm feeling risky and pick the Raiders or something like that. But I think that's all I had NFL wise. I did want to mention that the Warriors are still trying to figure out their rotation and their defense. Currently sitting at 2 and actually they won last night, so they're sitting at 3-2. They had given up 70 points and a half 3 games in a row. So that's not a typical Warriors defense. In fact, in the last, 10 seasons, they probably ranked towards the top of the league in defensive efficiency and all that, points allowed. And that has not been the case this season. I think a lot of that is Steve Kerr is trying to figure out the rotations, like I said, but he's also trying to get the rookies in there to get them some experience, because he knows he's going to have to lean on some of them towards the end of the season, especially during the playoff run. So you've seen a lot of Moses Moody, you've seen a lot of Jonathan Kuminga, you've seen a lot of James Wiseman, and then you've seen some rotations of their normal starters, but you still got Clay. They're bringing him back slow again this season, and he's looked a step slower than normal. So I'm hoping he gets his legs back underneath him and starts to play his brand of defense and shooting the lights out like he normally does. But it's been a rough start for Clay, and I think some of that came to a head when they played the Phoenix Suns. This was supposed to be, a playoff preview, and everyone expects the Suns to be really good again this season. Everyone expects the Warriors to be really good again this season. And Clay was pretty much manned up on Devin Booker the entire time he was in the game. These guys have a history. They're very competitive. They go back and forth. They've always chopped it up with each other. And I think Devin Booker said something to Clay that set him off. And I'm guessing it was something related to being past his prime or something like that, because Clay went off, got up in his face, was getting ready to throw blows with him. They've got a double tech, so they sent Booker to the bench. They sent Clay to his bench, and Clay started going after the ref and got his second technical and got kicked out of the game. But as he was walking out, he was pointing to his hand and saying, "I've got 4 of these. You guys don't have any." So that's where I think they really got under Clay's skin, because he's played, I think, almost 800 games in his career, including playoffs, and this is the first time he's ever been ejected. So something got under his skin and really pissed him off, but he had a bounce-back game. They played last night, and they played pretty well. Ended up winning that one. So I don't know. I'm really looking forward to this basketball season. Like I said, Warriors are my favorite team. Always will be. Have been since the Jason Richardson years and Baron Davis and all those guys. Even when we weren't good, I still loved them just because they had that swagger. All my teams are from Oakland. Obviously, Raiders aren't in Oakland anymore. Neither are the Warriors, but they all were there at one point. So those are my teams, and I'm just excited to see if they're able to defend their championship this season. And what that looks like, because I think with the youth movement that they have in Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Wiseman, those 4 the core for future seasons. And then we have the old core that I think this is probably the final run for Clay, Steph, and Draymond as the three-headed unit there. You've got Iguodala in there as well as the 14th man. Um, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens because, like I said, I think this is probably Draymond's last year with the team, and then you have the NBA essentially punishing the higher spending teams by saying that they want to put a hard salary cap on or for the league in these upcoming seasons because the Warriors thus far have been willing to just extend their guys, give them what they're owed, and pay a giant luxury tax. Well, some of the smaller market teams don't want the larger market teams to be able to do that because essentially they're uncapped if they're willing to spend the money on that luxury tax hit. So NF or the NBAPA is going to fight that, but I think we could see a hard salary cap here before too long in the NBA, and that would mean some of these contracts would have to be shed by the Warriors because of where they're sitting at with the salary cap right now. So I'm excited to see what happens this season, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Obviously, it's a lot more fun when I have someone here to talk to, and we can kind of go back and forth on our teams and our topics. So next time I do one of these, if Kyle's not able to join, I'm going to try to post it a little bit further ahead, so you guys can plan on jumping on if you want to. And it's really a simple process. I mean, you pretty much click the link, and you can do it from your phone as long as your phone has a mic, which every phone should. Or if you want to do it from laptop, if you want to do it from a tablet, those all should be able to work. All you need to do is either use Safari or Chrome for your browser. Click the link, and it'll take you right into the lobby. As we're talking, I can put you or you'll just sit in the lobby, and then when I'm ready, I can bring you on. You can be featured on the episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, like I said, and I thank you for tuning in. If you guys have any questions, comments for us, please get those in before the next episode. And as always, we'll read those on the live stream while we're going. And if you guys have any teams you want us to highlight a little bit more, just let us know. Thank you for tuning in, as always. Appreciate you.